Ever wondered what sparked Ron Rhodes' passion for end times prophecy? Or what issue has been hardest for him to work out? Then join us as we sit down with Ron to hear more to the story.
So Ron, tell us, how did you first get interested in studying Bible prophecy?
Well, it was my encounter with Pat Boone and his family, who were studying Hal Lindsey's book, The Late Great Planet Earth. Mm-hmm. They got me initially excited. But then I saw on Hal Lindsey's book that he went to Dallas Theological Seminary. Mm-hmm. And so I started to buy books by John Wolford at the seminary, Charles Ryrie, mm-hmm. J. Dwight Pentecost, you know, all the big prophecy writers at Dallas Seminary. And so I had thoroughly digested those books before I even attended the seminary. And that's what got me interested. Now, I shared all this with my brothers and sisters, of course. I do remember my sister Pat, she was very enthusiastic about it, but it was kind of like zeal without knowledge a little bit. Mm. She went into my dad, who was not yet, you know, a believer in any of this, and she said, "Oh, Dad, it's going to be so cool because all the Christians are going to vanish off the planet, and then the Antichrist is going to take over." And my dad's going,
Yeah.
you know. So you can communicate it in such a way that it sounds a little bit strange, but when you look at what the Bible actually teaches, which is what you should do,
right,
in context, it makes a lot of sense.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
So when you were starting to study end times Bible prophecy, what was one of the hardest passages of Scripture or topics for you personally to work through and come to a decision on?
I think that probably some of the horrific things that take place during the tribulation period were kind of hard. It's the old question, if there's a good God, why would a good God allow such horrible things to happen? But the more that I understood about God's nature, the more it made sense, because we tend to think of God as only love. And in fact, the church I had grown up in, which is a liberal church, focused mostly on the love of God and the need to just do good things to go to heaven. But I soon learned that God is also a God of holiness. And because he's a God of holiness, he's also a God of wrath when that holiness is violated. And I started to see the damage that human sin can do. And I started to see that it applied to all people. All people are fallen, you know, in sin. I remember even in the Hollywood years, we worked with many, many major celebrities. We co-headlined with Anne Margaret, for example. I did a lot of work with Barbara Eden, I Dream of Jeannie.
Right, right.
We did work with Jackie Gleason, Carol Burnett. You know, the list is very long.
Stars, yeah.
And one of the things I noticed back in those days is that even though these guys are really rich and really famous, they still have problems just like I do. You know, and they still have relational struggles. They have things that go wrong. They have health issues. And so I started to understand very clearly that that's not the answer to life. And, you know, that might sound strange, you know, looking back in hindsight, but when you're talking about coming into a relationship with God, it's a helpful backdrop to see that what most people consider to be the most successful people in the world, well, it's really not as successful as you think. And they still got a lot of the same problems that we do. And so those years really prepared me for what I'm doing now.
Thanks for joining us. If you would like to explore more of our resources on end time prophecy, including past programs and articles by Ron Rhodes, just click on the link nearby.